Starting at the beginning, how did you get involved with the film?
Well, that's a great story. Probably the most interesting one I have about the film, amongst others, I guess, but probably the most interesting one. I was in New York doing press for the film Striptease, and Pete Berg, the director, then he was just an actor,
right,
called me and asked me and my wife to join him at the Oak Room at the Plaza for drinks, and we went over there and we joined him there, and he had Meryl Poster, an executive with Miramax, with him.
Right.
And during the course of the evening, over drinks, she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm here doing some press for Striptease." And she said, "No, I got a project that we've been having a problem casting this one role. Would you be interested in reading the script and meeting with the director?" And I said, what project are we talking about? She said, "Copland." And I said, "Oh, hell yeah, I'd love to read that, and I'd love to meet the director. Let's do it tomorrow." They got me the script, and I read it sort of the next day while I was doing the press for Striptease, intermittently anyway, and ended up meeting Jim Mangold and Kathy Conrad and Cary Grant, not Cary Granite, excuse me, I'm thinking of Cary Woods, another producer on it, and Jim Mangold, and Jim said, "Would you read for me?" And I said, "Absolutely." And he said, "All right, well, here's a scene, take as much time as you want, go read for it, or, go prep yourself for it and come back and read for it." I said, "All right," and I did.
And now, so here you come, and obviously you were an experienced actor by this point, but this was certainly a really high-profile project, and here you come into this cast. You've got Keitel, De Niro, Stallone, Ray Liotta. Were you in any way not intimidated, but kind of in awe of some of the people around you, or did you just jump into it and say, I'm here, I'm going to make the most of it?
Well, all the above. I had heard about the project, and I didn't tell Meryl Poster this when she brought it up. "Would you like to come read for it?" I had heard about it, and I think I had even tried to get in on it, and hadn't had much success. So ironically, meeting her in New York and the invitation, I took full advantage of it. Now, I hadn't read the script, but I knew who was involved, and it was a daunting cast.
Right.
It certainly was a little intimidated and also inspired, and that's kind of where you want to be creatively. You would like to think that you can get in there and play with those guys, and that's an exciting notion, and you want to see if you can succeed or not.
Right.
And so, yeah, I was intimidated, I was excited, and I was inspired.
What was the atmosphere like on set? Because obviously it's kind of a dark movie. Then you've got people like you and Stallone and Keitel, and even the women on the film like Edie Falco and Janine Garofalo and Annabella Shore are kind of tougher personalities. Was it a really intense film set, or did you guys have fun while you were making the movie?
I remember it as being a very fun experience, and a very intense experience as well.
Right.
So equally, I think we all realized we were in something special. If you were to ask me my favorite films that I've done, Copland is one of my favorites. If people say, "What's your favorite performance?" it's one of my top favorite performances, and that's all because of Jim Mangold.
Right.
And Mangold writing it and directing it, and you knew you were in on something, right at the cusp of something really great could happen. And then you look around, you're working with that whole cast. Everywhere around you is somebody talented. It was, an exhilarating experience. I was so intimidated by the fact that I didn't have a New York accent. I flew in early and arranged to meet with the New York City Police Department and started to hang out with cops. And they thought I was there to watch their procedure and their tactics and so forth, but I was really there to absorb their accents and the way that they interacted on a personal level. And it was a blessing, and I was able to, catch on to the accent right away. But my first day was a scene with Robert De Niro, in which I only had to say 2 words.
Right.
Yeah, hey. that's all I had to say was, yeah, hey. And, you know, I'd never worked with the guy, and he's a legend, and certainly somebody that I look up to. And Jesus Christ, I just remember I was so scared of, you know, just whatever.
Yeah.
Being, you know, you had to be prepared for whatever was going to be thrown at you, but I was preoccupied with hoping I sounded New York enough.
Right.
And it turned out to be quite a funny day. I don't know why, but that anecdote just bugged me.
No, that's a great story, actually. So comparing this film, I'm curious. You know, obviously Terminator 2, you know, put you on the map and really introduced you to the world at large. But then this movie sort of gave you, you know, really kind of showed the world that you could handle like a real dramatic role. Which one do you think had more of a long-term impact on your career?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Well, certainly I cannot run from the shadow of Terminator 2.
Right.
That I will forever be associated with. And I do think that Copland did help give me credibility.
Right.
Not only with the audience, but with my fellow castmates as well, and, you know, perhaps the film community at large.
Right.
It's interesting because, you know, I had no doubt. I had confidence in myself, but I don't think I really realized how big that character I created was and how it was going to overshadow pretty much everything I did thereafter. So Copland definitely helped me, and you know, I still believe that there are people that would see Copland and not even know it's the same guy.
Sure.
And that is the greatest compliment I can get, because I worked real hard on that role, and you know, not only for the audience, but for myself, and I am very proud of it as a result.
Now, you know,
that's a good question, by the way.
Well, thank you. So, you know, obviously in your career, whether as a result of Copland or not, you play a lot of very kind of heavy, dramatic, or very serious roles, a lot of, you know, cops and military type characters. You rarely get to venture into, say, like more comedic roles. Do you ever get the, you know, desire just to go out there and do something completely, some wacky, off-the-wall comedy?
Yeah, I do. Every once in a while, it does. I see something. I think, well, you know, I could have done that, or I could do something like that. I wonder if I'll ever get that opportunity. But you know, you just kind of go with really whatever's presented to you and whatever falls in front of you on the road, you know, and,
right.
and you take what parts you can, and you go with whatever opportunities are given you. And you know, maybe someday I'll get to do something completely zany and blow people's minds,
sure.
But it hasn't presented itself yet.
And also, on a kind of related note, one thing I think people don't necessarily know is you do a lot of, or a pretty fair amount of voiceover acting kind of on the side, you know, between cartoon shows and some of the video games and stuff like that. What do you enjoy about, like, voice acting versus on-camera acting? Well,
that's another good question, and it kind of ties in with the one you had before. That's where I really can kind of, you know, let the crazy part of me out and kind of be goofy and be silly and do stupid stuff, and nobody sees it, but they hear it.
Right.
So I really enjoy it. As a matter of fact, as soon as we get done here today, I'm going off to lay down some auditions for 3 different things. But anyway, get to the point, that's where I get to do a lot more crazy kind of fun characters. But even within that world, there's specific things that I get brought in on.
Right.
And even within that world, I have to, you know, kind of reveal that I can do other things. But, you know, to be honest with you, all in all, I am very, very happy that I've been, you know, given these opportunities that I have. And I'm not frustrated in any way to prove myself comedically. You do a movie like Copland, and then, you know, the greatest thing about that was I got to do Walk the Line with James Mangold.
Right, right.
And that is one of my favorite movies I've ever done as well. And you know, there's something about Mangold that he's just, I think he's one of my generation's greatest directors. I just think he's phenomenal. And those 2 pictures are, you know, really something special. And I look forward to working with Jim anytime I get the opportunity.
Well, I know we're running out of time, and usually one of the questions I like to ask people is what role they get recognized for the most. I'm curious, I would imagine it's probably Terminator 2 for you, but do you find you get recognized on the street for some of your other shows, like X-Files or The Unit or any other roles?
Well, I would say, yeah, most definitely the most thing that I usually am acknowledged for is Terminator 2. However, it depends on how I look and what I do, and you know, the way my hair is cut, if I have facial hair, and you know, and I'm usually surprised by what people recognize me for, and I'm kind of one of those guys that you know, if it's the other day it was Ladder 49, which, you know, that doesn't happen all the time.
Right.
Yeah, matter of fact, I did do Ladder 49.
Right.
You know, and there's a lot of movies out there. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of really good ones, and there's some that aren't so good, but that's an actor's life, you know. You're just out there making a buck. But you know what? I'll give you another little bit of information, because that was a good question. Another little thing I'll say is, when you're doing television, because you did touch on the unit, when you're doing like television and you're in people's TVs, in their living rooms each week, that becomes the most recognizable thing.
Right.
One really great night of television is bigger than anything you'd have at the box office. You have a night on television where you get 22 million viewers. I mean, you know, a hit movie, I don't know if you get 22 million people to go to a hit movie. You know what I mean? I mean, it's that powerful.
Right,
so.
right.
And I always thought, for the record, since we got about 30 seconds here,
sure, go ahead.
I always thought Copland would have been a hell of a TV show. My first real TV venture was The Sopranos, and I was drawn to that because of the writing and how similar it felt to me to Copland.